I'm Asia Pavlin, and I'm on the volleyball team here at Indiana State.
My name is Kellen Norris, and I'm the head athletic trainer here at Indiana State University.
Partner violence to me is, say it's like a physical or sexual violence towards a current or former intimate partner. So it also could be say stalking, someone is constantly checking my location and they're constantly showing up where I'm at and I feel unsafe. That may be a red flag to me. Say my friends are in a toxic relationship, they're constantly trying to put them down, just trying to insert their power over them. I may hey, maybe that's not good for you. Maybe you should get out of that because I just don't think it's gonna lead to a good outcome. Sexual violence could be, maybe they're just constantly touching them and without their consent, and it's just inappropriate. It's not good for them. And physical could just be it could be as small as a push, and it could cause harm to them. It's not good.
CDC defines partner violence as abuse or aggressive behavior that occurs in a romantic relationship. Partner violence can vary how often it happens and how severe it is, and it can range from one episode of violence that could have lasting impact, or chronic or severe episodes over multiple years. Partner violence can include any of the following types of behavior: physical violence, sexual violence, stalking, or psychological aggression.
So how it impacts a person's mental health will actually depend on when the violence or the trauma occurred. If it occurred earlier in life, you're likely to see some impacts on everything from relationships, the ability to trust others. It could impact, things like anxiety, depression, things like that. More recent violence also can have impacts on relationships, impact depression, anxiety, things like post-traumatic stress disorder. But it really just depends on the person. Everybody's going to experience it slightly different, whereas some are more likely to have everyday recurrent symptoms. Others are more likely to display concerns in other areas of life. So it could be relationships, jobs, things like that.
Well, you know your friends and teammates more than anyone else. You probably know them better than your coaches or the athletic director knows them. I would say if my friends are outgoing and they're normally hanging out with me all the time and they're very talkative in the locker room or something like that, and they suddenly just become closed off, they're shy, they don't really want to hang out with us anymore, or say I ask them, hey, how are you and so, and they just immediately change the subject, I may be a little suspicious, hey, what's actually going on here?
That is the million-dollar question, simply because a lot of times within the world of athletics, we are trained to kind of not show any weakness or vulnerability. We're often told to kind of shake things off, we don't talk about certain things. And so a lot of times people in the athletics community are a little less likely to actually talk about it or to actually seek help for it. If somebody is a recent victim of some type of relationship violence or a violent act, it's not unusual for them to be a little bit more anxious, for them to seem a little bit more withdrawn at times. You might notice that they tend to kick up the overall desire for privacy because they don't want anybody to know what happened. But one thing that people don't really think about is that for a lot of them, it's associated with a sense of shame, or in some people it could be a sense of guilt, and therefore not wanting to talk about it. But I would suggest that if you suspect somebody has been a recent victim of relationship violence or domestic issues, that you kind of just check in with them. Check in with them and see how they're doing, and if you feel like it's a concern, be willing to speak with someone who's in a position to help that person.
Personally, I would probably try to ask them first, hey, what's going on? And if they kind of just want to change the subject or oh, I'm good, but yet their signs aren't saying the same, I'd probably report it to Title IX because they know everything about that. They know how to handle it, they know how to investigate it. If I was uncomfortable about going to Title IX, like right away, like say I was just maybe assuming things, I'd probably go to a counseling center and talk to a counselor like, hey, this is what I'm thinking is going on with my friend, but I don't know how to go about it, and let them do the investigation or let them talk to Title IX. And say the counseling center isn't available because I know Dr. Chu is so busy, I'd probably go to my athletic trainer, just because our athletic trainers here are very personal with us. So I just kind of be like, hey, like, what should I do about this situation? And then they can take it over.
So there's a national resource, and I actually wrote it down because I knew I was going to forget. But the National Domestic Violence Hotline is available for anyone who experiences domestic violence. And that number is 1-800-799-7233. But they are a great resource in terms of having that first contact. You can do so with a certain level of anonymity. But I would also encourage people to not only focus on what's available nationally. I would encourage every department to develop an awareness and a list of numbers for local resources as well, right? So for example, here we have the Council on Domestic Violence, or CODA, and they do a great job of bringing in people, giving them temporary shelter or housing, or even providing temporary resources after an event as a way of separating them from the person who may have committed the act toward them.
Yeah, I think it's very important for each staff member, coach, athletic trainer, administrator to know what the reporting process is at your institution. A good place to start for that is in your Title IX office. This can vary from institution to institution, but starting there and making sure you are educated on what to do if you are worried that someone is a victim of partner violence is very important. Some institutions have mandatory reporters, so if you're a staff member, a coach, or athletic trainer and you do know someone is a victim of partner violence, it is mandatory that you report that to your Title IX office. So it's very important to understand what resources you have at your university and where to go with information to get help for that victim.